All right, well, welcome everybody for you here, Paige, and for everyone out there who's watching this recording. This is the uh, Collaborate session for Unit 4 at Marketing 5301, Advanced Marketing. And we're going to get started on some things today that I hope you'll find helpful. And if you've got any questions, why, Paige is going to ask them for you. Okay, so Paige, get ready, and the rest of you get ready because we're going to get started here. And as soon as I change this around. Okay, welcome to the week 4 Collaborate session. And as I mentioned, I'm your instructor, Dr. Crispin, and we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect next and how you can best perform your assignments coming up. Also, you'll receive a recording for this and as well as this slide deck presentation that you're about to view tonight. So hopefully it will be helpful to you, and you'll keep your progress and momentum going, and everything will be great. So tonight the agenda is basically how to analyze a case study, and which you've already done, and all of you have done a good job. This is going to affirm what you've done and hopefully give you some tips on how to turn that into a successful Unit 4 case study. And also the Unit 6 marketing plan assignment we'll discuss, and the Unit 7 final video presentation we'll also discuss. And if there are any questions at the end, I will answer those too. So let's get started. First of all, there are 4 steps in analyzing a case study. The first is the situation analysis that then begats, in biblical terms, it begats the problem, and then that further shows what alternatives can address that problem or problems, and then finally, what alternative have you selected for your recommendation, which actually becomes your marketing strategy. So let's see how that plays out. First of all, the situation analysis examines or describes the business environment. The group that you're presenting to are the senior executives for the firm, and that's what your final assignment will be, as a presentation to them. So they know a lot about what's going on in the competition and in the environment. So your role is to take and encapsulate those important areas that relate to what you're going to be discussing, put that in your situation analysis. You don't have to go chapter and verse of the whole history of a company and so forth, but keep in mind who your audience is and who you're presenting to and what they already know, and then fill that in with specific information that you think would be helpful for them, and also that they will find validating for you. You'll be able to increase your legitimacy with them by a good situation analysis. So briefly, you're also describing the structure and size of the business that you're considering. And again, if you are doing a company that has multiple products in it, say a Microsoft or an Apple, don't present the whole company. Pick a product and narrow down quickly to that product, and help with your recommendation in how that product can best be improved through your recommendations and what your analysis is. And then that, by doing so, it becomes more clear when you do identify and describe the problem, because you're identifying these key issues specific with that problem in that product, in that company. So again, always keeping it simple and focused. And then as you are discussing the problem, also discuss how the company, as far as you can see through your research and analysis, how are they handling that? Because they may not be handling or engaging that problem in the best manner. They may be engaging it in a way that, we've always done it this way, so we're going to engage this problem that way. And that may not be the best way. So through your careful study and analysis, you may be able to find a different way that they could address the problem to minimize it and turn it into a solution. And then finally, the alternative, and this is one of the areas, is take and identify some of these successful aspects uh, and failures so that you can give a balanced view so that to your audience, you can demonstrate that you are legitimate again, that you do know what you're talking about. You do recognize that there are some value, but there's also some drawbacks, and you need to make those present. And in doing so, you can point to the successes and failures and other things that are associated with your solving the problem that you've identified. And then finally, pick a recommendation or pick an alternative and then use that as your recommendation. If there are two alternatives in which way the company can go, choose one and then focus on that one and demonstrate why you believe that one recommendation is the best. It doesn't mean that it has to be the only recommendation and strategy for the firm, but it's the one you choose and it's the one you're presenting, and that's what's most important. And then conclude your analysis by reviewing your findings. Just go back and review. Now that I told you what I'm going to tell you, I've told you, and now I'm going to tell you what I've told you. That's the approach that you want to take in dealing with your audience. Now, let's go back to the situation analysis. Situation analysis examines and describes the business environment relevant to the case study. And again, remember who you're presenting to. They know as much about the company as about the company that you are describing as anyone, because they work in it every day. And let me tell you something about top management as you continue to go up the corporate ladder throughout your career. One of the things that companies do, senior leaders in companies do, is they create policy. Now, policies, and you know what policies are, because if you work in a company, you obviously have been a recipient of some policy. You've had to implement some policy, or you've had to figure out what a policy means in a particular situation so that it can be implemented properly. So policies are very, very important to the senior level management, because in reality, it's the only way they can actually have an impact on what functional workers do and what functional managers do and how they do it, to ensure that they're going to go march in the right direction and do the things necessary to get the outcomes that are necessary and are aspirational in the strategic plan for the company. And a subset of that strategic plan is the marketing plan. And again, by having sufficient and well understood policies by both what the senior managers want and what the functional employees and managers do, how they interpret them, that's critical. And so senior level managers are constantly figuring out, are our policies the right policies? Are they being implemented in the way we expected them to be when we created them? So in short, policies, for them to be good policies and do the things the company needs and can do well, need to be clear and succinct. And that means they need to be communicated clearly and succinctly. And that's in parallel. What you're doing here is communicating clearly and succinctly what you want your product to do and the strategy that you need for the product in order to reach those goals. So that's sort of taking a step back and saying, okay, on the other side of the desk, this is what occupies the senior and executive leadership. Is the creation and implementation of policy. Because once that's done and done properly and done in a way that everyone looks at it the same way and implements it with the same feeling and the same spirit, then you've got a company that really is hitting on all cylinders. And some companies that do that are companies like Apple, Google, and so forth. they have clear policies, and they have clear implementation of those policies. Well, that's something outside. It's a good thing it left. So anyway, getting back to the situation analysis, what you're doing is describing the nature of the organization and sort of encompassing all of those policies and all of those things that are related to the product that you are using in your analysis. And you're also talking about the product and the customers in the competitive market space. And so this is also very important, because every spot that is customer facing in your organization interacts with your customers, and they are delivering on the brand promise every time they interact with a customer. And if the customer is interacted with inconsistently, then that's going to confuse them, and they're not going to either fully understand or believe the brand promise that your marketing campaign is trying so hard to make relevant. So that's another thing why it's good to be clear and succinct. Describing the structure and size of the main business under consideration is very important, because if it's a modern technology business, typically the structure of the business is going to be flat. It's going to be not a whole lot of layers, because they have to move quickly, and the structure, the marketplace is dynamic, technology is changing, and the company has to react to that. And also customers' reaction to changes in technology are also fluid and constant. And so that needs to be recognized, because in the end, it's all about the customer. Companies that are mature and like say a utility company, they will have many levels of leadership in their organization, and their organization structure will be elevated or higher instead of a flat organization. So this is where it's important, is to identify key issues for the problem, because those key issues are going to be that basis on which you describe the alternatives, because it is how the company deals with problems is going to illuminate for you how you can describe strategies that can improve a product's performance. So let me close this window so we'll get a less of this traffic noise. And we're right on the side of a busy street. And this is where that a company and its structure will also determine how it responds to these problems. Again, a company that's flat and doesn't have a lot of layers will probably respond very quickly, and different parts of the company that you wouldn't expect might respond immediately, and others in support later. Whereas a company that has many layers and is in a staid and relatively unchanging environment may respond very slowly or seemingly not at all to challenges, because those challenges are not that significant in the whole scheme of things to them. So that's another awareness that you would want to describe as part of potential problems in the organization, is how do they respond to problems, and do they respond with them consistently with their structure, and is their structure sufficient for the organization in dealing in this marketplace. We've seen companies who have been leaders only to fail later because of their inability to change with the marketplace and with the technology that's driving their product. An example, the landscape is littered with them, but examples can be things like old word office products, office software. WordStar used to be the premier word processing program on both local computers and network computers. Most of you have probably never heard of it, but in the 1980s and 90s, it was the leading software for both professional and personal use, and now it's gone. All of a sudden, Microsoft came in and began competing and using what we call now the GUI interface, and basically drove the WordStar out of the business, even though it had a very high level of functionality, even greater than Word in the beginning. But Microsoft Word revealed that, hey, our people want color, they want functionality that they can kind of see how it works, and they want to do it with mouse clicks, not with keyboard commands. And that's where WordStar sort of missed that, and as a result, by not taking that turn they should have, they ran off the competitive road, never to return. So this is where the problems are the incubator for the alternatives. Think of it that way. The more problems you find, the more alternatives you can also embrace, and these alternatives are the ones you should select so that you can see which one of these alternatives would make good recommendations for your marketing strategies. So in the alternatives, use as much numerical benchmark information as possible. Key performance indicators, known as KPIs, and so forth, are very important in this stage, because you're trying to demonstrate performance and how that performance can either is being impacted or how it could possibly improve. Well, how do you tell improvement? You tell improvement by growth in some kind of a measurement. So this is where you would figure out what kind of measurement that you would like to use. And this is where, again, you're pointing to the successes or failures or unforeseen results and inadequate measures. Because again, it goes back to if you can't measure it, then why do it? And if you can't measure it, it doesn't matter. So you want to make sure, if it does matter, you want to have a corresponding measurement to it so that you can demonstrate how it does matter, and how by changing the measurements and the performance as defined by those measurements, you will be able to adequately demonstrate to your senior leadership group, this is how we can achieve success by doing these things. So now we get to the recommendation. This is the fun part. Here, after you've sort of talked about and learned and analyzed all those things up to this point, this is where you get to pick and choose which recommendation that you're going to select and why. You don't have to say why you didn't select others. All you have to do is say why you selected the ones that you are bringing forward. And again, that could be one or two recommendations. Don't make it complicated. And this way, you can demonstrate to the CEO that you know what you're talking about, and if you do it this way, we're going to be successful. And finally, the recommendation showcases both your understanding of the case study and the business strategy. And by having a good recommendation that is supported by your key measurements, boy, that's very powerful. And that is not, to be honest with you, that is not seen often enough in business. And so your senior executives will really be thankful for demonstrating with that kind of support. So to keep that in mind as well. Okay, here's the tips on how to be successful in your case study. The first thing is read it several times, but this is how you read it. The first time, just read it. Read it to try to get the essence of, what kind of a story is this case study telling, and who are the players, and does it make sense as I read it the first time? And then on each subsequent reading, look for details about a specific topic. competitors, business strategy, management structure, financial loss, and then go back and highlight phrases and sections relating to these topics and take notes. And also pay attention if you're reading, if they have any footnotes, either in the information you're doing research on, such as the company's annual report, or in the case study itself. Footnotes can be very important and can have information that's very revealing. For instance, in a company report, the company needs to show information, particularly if it's a public company with investors, needs to show information, warts and all. But it doesn't mean that you have to hang the warts out on the front porch. You can put the warts in your in a more subtle way, and one way is making sure the information is in there is through the addition of footnotes. So that's why footnotes are very important. It usually hides a lot of warts. And the warts can show you where they're having challenges in performing in certain areas, and that will give you clues on how you can change how they would address things based on what you've learned and based on what they've learned in your recommendation for an alternatives and recommendations. So that's very important. And again, going back several times, you're going to find each time when you focus on different things that the picture, like a mosaic, is going to start to look a little clearer, and you're going to formulate in your mind, aha, this is what's really happening, and this is how I can help. So that's also the other value of reading it several times. Some of this we've already talked about. Really, no detail is insignificant. If it makes its way into an analysis, then it has some level of importance to it. Nothing is really in an analysis to take up space. It's usually a very compact, the information is compact, and anything that reaches the report has a value to it. It's up to you to figure out what level of value it has and see if it impacts what you're doing one way or the other. And the biggest numbers can often be misleading. And this, again, some of those weird numbers or revealing numbers could be found in those footnotes. And the point of an analysis is to often dig deeper and find otherwise unnoticed variables that drive a situation. All the information is there because they're required to put it there. You, as a savvy researcher and an analysis person, it's up to you to figure out where things fit together, and then turn that around and go back to your senior leadership group and say, aha, this is where we can make improvements. So also, your instructor is looking to see that you understand the business aspect of the case, not to assess your skills as a close reader. So always remember that what's important is the content of the case study, not the way in which the information is presented or peculiarities of its style. So what the instructor is looking for is how well are you demonstrating that you understand? And instead of trying to write some sort of meandering piece of fluff, really, how are you demonstrating that you dug in to this case study and the analysis and really pulled out some things that are revealing, and you can show out of this came problems, and you can show how to deal with those problems, and then your recommendation can help the company get on the right path with that product and really make it a successful one and reach the stated goals. Okay, we're going to pause right here. Any questions about the Unit 4 assignment? Paige, any questions out there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, then we're going to move on. Unit 6 is the marketing plan assignment. And really what you've done up to this point is going to be very helpful in creating the marketing plan assignment. The marketing plan, and I'll just we'll just go here. The marketing plan is the most important document created by the marketing department. And there is a phrase that says in business that says marketing is everybody's business. It's too important for just the marketing department to control. And that's very important because, again, I talked earlier about uh, the brand promise and the customer journey. Uh, Nowadays, the customer has access to much more information that is not generated by the company. They have information now from uh, interested worldview groups with recommendations posted online, and they can find out any information they want to find out about the product or the company producing the product without ever having to go to a company's website. So this is in one sense is a very scary thing for marketers because they cannot control the message completely that is out there in the marketplace, whereas they used to be able to because they were the holder of all the information, and if you wanted information you had to ask the company. But now that's not true. In fact, the studies are showing that potential customers place more of an emphasis and value on recommendations of people with their same worldview than they do with what the company says. So there is real value out there, but also the company, the marketers do not control what these folks say. So what they have to do is that keeps the company honest. And if they make a claim, they have to follow through and support that claim. For instance, Tide makes a claim. Tide says, tide's in, dirt's out. Well, essentially what that means is if you use Tide, your clothes will be clean. And so much so that you will pay extra just to ensure you get that result. And you know what? Your mother's, my mother, and even I pay extra for Tide. And that's the value of a brand doing exactly what it says it will do consistently and over time. So that's very important for a company if they're going to make that claim to be able to uh, follow up at every touch point in the organization that will support that brand promise. So with that in the background, let's take a look at the company itself. Again, that introduction needs to be brief but succinct and sufficient. It needs to say everything it needs to say, but not too much. It needs to be like Goldilocks porridge, not too little, not too much, just right. And you'll come to be able to understand what is just right based on what you are trying to achieve and all the research that you've been doing. Next is the competitive analysis, and again, these things should flow just like in the case study. These should flow from one to the other, and it's like a movie. The characters in a movie evolve with the script throughout the film, and you become invested in these characters, and they don't do things that you don't that you don't think are plausible. They do things that the script supports as they go through. If the person is a bad person, an evil person, well, right away you can see through the camera angles, the music, even their behavior, that this person is a bad person. And if it's so all of a sudden at the end, that person isn't a good person, doesn't change their stripes without some kind of a reason or cause. And that's what the competitive analysis is all about, is that, whatever your company is doing, it doesn't change its stripes or change its behavior without reason. And if there is a reason, or if they do change, you need to provide a reason and make the company look three-dimensional in your description. So, and the way to do that is to show how the competitors, at least three, show how they relate and how they're differentiated from those competitors, and identify two or three strengths of the company and two or three weaknesses of the company compared to a minimum of two of your company's competitors. And that really shows you how they're competing and why they're competing the way they are, and is that better or worse, or is that uh, than their competitors. All of that can be done through that competitive analysis. Next are the marketing strategies, and they should be uh, presented through the lens of the marketing mix. And the marketing mix, of course, is product, place, price, and promotion, the 4 Ps. And so with each, as you describe each, begin with the theoretical definition of one of those marketing mix elements, such as if it's product, you say, what is that theoretical definition of product? And just start right off, and then cite it so that you are demonstrating where that information came from. And then what is the product that's being offered by the company? And then how did the development of these new products affect your company's marketing strategy? Uh, that's pretty straightforward, and do those types of things for each of the 4 Ps, and you'll find that you'll have a very compelling marketing strategy presented. Well, here's the competitive advantage. I'm going to stop right here because I want to ask this question. Who knows what is competitive advantage? Because in a business course, a business degree course, that is a term that we hear often. Every course somewhere mentions competitive advantage. So what the HE double havoc is it? Paige, do you have any idea what competitive advantage is? Would you like to give it a stab?
I'll give it a stab. Competitive advantage wouldn't that be what the competitive has advantage over compared to others?
That's a good start. In what way?
It's it would depend on like their product or their services. Maybe.
Um, you're on the right track, but you're sort of stuck in the mud here. Um, I've and don't feel bad because this happens to every student, and this is why Dr. Crispin is here with the clear and easy definition of competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is only 3 things. It's one of 3 things or more, and I've shown it here in this video called under competitive advantage, understanding its real meaning. And if you watch this PowerPoint presentation in the presenter mode, all you have to do is click on that link there. It's live, and it will take you directly to the video that explains exactly what competitive advantage is. Also, the video is shown in the announcements section of the classroom. So you can also go to the classroom and the announcements section, and you will also find it there. So there are a couple of places you can find it. I would recommend that you watch it. Competitive advantage is one of 3 things. Is it cheaper, faster, or of higher value? Period. Now, a company has at least one competitive advantage of it being cheaper, faster, of higher quality. It has one of those. Some companies have 2. Apple has a couple of competitive advantages, which makes it a real world leader. So you have to, and competitive advantages are not guaranteed. They're very difficult to create, and they're even equally challenging to maintain that competitive advantage in the marketplace. So it is not how well your company does this or that. It is your company cheaper? Walmart has a competitive advantage over its competitors. It's the cheapest of the cheaper of the products. Federal Express is the leader in fastest. When you absolutely have to get your package there overnight, as the advertising says, Federal Express will do it. So it's faster and of higher quality. Look at Mercedes-Benz. Everyone wants a Mercedes-Benz, but few can afford them. But those who do get the extra quality that Mercedes-Benz has to offer. All of those are sought after advantages, and they require the right hiring of people with the right expertise, the right financing, the right financial support and resources to make sure that those competitive advantages are maintained at or above what their competition is doing. It's very difficult for a company to do that, but that is what they strive for. So take a look at that video. It's about 4 minutes long, and you will see how competitive advantage is relative to the industry that you're working in. It is not absolute. So I hope that explains what competitive advantage is. And you'll follow up by watching the video. All right. Any questions about Unit 6, the marketing plan?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. All right, Paige. Well, in that case, we're going to go to what I think is the funnest part, which is the final video presentation. And you really should be thinking about this now, because what you're going to be doing in Unit 6 is you're going to be creating a marketing plan, and then you're going to take that marketing plan and present essentially the executive summary to the group, to the senior level executive group. And you're going to do it in this manner, a 12-slide video PowerPoint presentation. And it will have all of these headings: introduction, competitive analysis, marketing strategies, competitive advantage, ethical stance of the company, and conclusion. All of those will be part of the 12-slide video PowerPoint presentation. Again, the introduction, make it brief but succinct. The competitive analysis, make sure that you thoroughly understand who the competitors are, and then describe your analysis of them. This is your opportunity to really make this analysis thorough but succinct. Not too long, not too short, just right. Packed with your knowledge about what you've gained. And then from this, again, as you did in the marketing strategy, take and pull that information out and present it as it relates to the 4 Ps. And this should include both the product and service, pricing, distribution, place, in both traditional and digital marketing strategies that you've described. Here it is: competitive advantage. Is it faster, cheaper, or higher quality? And this is where you'll want to state what your product recommendation is, what your product has. Is it one of these 3 areas or more than one? And that's where you'll be able to clearly demonstrate the type of competitive advantage your company holds and your product holds. Ethical stance of the company. Research has shown that people want to work for companies that are deemed ethical and behave in an ethical manner. And so, does your company do that? Well, if it does, describe how it is. If it doesn't do it to your satisfaction, describe what it does, how it does it, and then to make your recommendation on how it could improve to become a more ethical company. And then finally, your conclusion is again to provide those recommendations with respect to future marketing strategies, and remembering to include the topics involving all 4 Ps. So there are essentially 2 video options. I'll describe the most straightforward one because everyone has access to Microsoft PowerPoint. That's a given. And because Microsoft 365 is available to all students at no cost, so you have access to PowerPoint. Within PowerPoint is the capability for a slide-by-slide narration, and where you use the audio portion of your computer microphone like I'm using, and you are presenting slide by slide across, or you can be talking synchronously to your slides and click your slides through, and it will synchronize with your slides all the way across. So it can be slide by slide or click through. Now you only have 5 to 7 minutes, and you have a 12-slide presentation minimum. So you're going to want to go faster through some slides than others. If you took a minute per slide, it would be a 12-minute presentation, and you would be deducted points because your presentation went over. So you need to adhere to the 5 to 7 minutes because, again, your group are senior executives. They're very busy, and they don't have time to listen to additional information past that window. Because they have many other presentations just like yours that they're also going to be evaluating. So 5 to 7 minutes is important. How do you do that? Practice, practice, practice. You should probably do your slideshow a minimum of 3 times in rehearsal before you click the record button. That will help you get the length and get the quality of your information pulled together so it's synchronous across your presentation, and finally, your performance will also be able to be improved by the time you get to the third try, because you've gotten everything else locked in. I would recommend go even more if you have time, because it is that important for you to be able to get this routine down. So when you do it in real life, you'll be an old pro at it. So that's one way. The second way is to actually literally take that slide show presentation that you're doing and turn it into a video and uploading it to YouTube, and then sending me a YouTube URL so that I can access the video and watch it. Watch the video PowerPoint presentation, just like you're watching this over a video when you watch the recording. So those are the two ways, and one way, and remember, what is not acceptable is to not have an accompanying synchronous audio with your presentation. You can even have audio and video in your presentation if you would like, just like what you're seeing here. That's up to you, but for sure it needs to have a synchronous audio, and it needs to be presented either by option A, option 1, or option 2. And you can look at this, look at that more. Now, I've included here in this PowerPoint presentation some task learning guides that may be helpful for you. And these URLs are live if you watch this presentation in the view mode, which is what I'm presenting it here in the view mode, so that you can click on these. And finally, at the very end there, in addition to the task learning guides, are Dr. Crispin's video tips. And you can click on that, and it shows you how to make your best presentation for video and audio possible. So yeah, I think you'll find value in watching that as well. Okay. Any questions about the final exam? We're going to go in more detail about this in the next couple of Collaborate sessions, but I wanted to give you sort of an overview of what's in front of you so that you can, as you create one assignment, you can see how that folds into the next. So Paige, any questions before we ring off?
My only question that I have, and this might be like an off-the-wall question, sorry. For like our final presentation, are we creating a company, or are we researching a company?
Your final presentation is actually a presentation of your marketing plan that you do in Unit 6.
Okay. Okay.
So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything new. In the final assignment is a presentation of something you've already done.
Oh, okay.
Which is Unit 6.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for watching, and we hope that I hope that you'll have enjoy doing this. I'm on my way back from the graduation in Orange Beach that just took place this weekend. I made it as far as Charlotte, North Carolina, and tomorrow I'll be home. But it's a long drive from where I live down to Orange Beach. It was a beautiful graduation. I would recommend, when it's time for you to graduate, that if you can attend and be a part of that, I would recommend it. It's really a fun and memorable event, and I'm always excited every time I go and see all the students who have been in my classes, how they get to how they beam with pride as they go across the stage. So that's something for all of you to look forward to. But in the meantime, I'll see you in class. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. Paige, watch those leaves turn